Our biggest employer branding has been done by a comedian.
Comedian?
Harsh Gujral had worked in RateGain.
Oh, is it?
Hey, let's spend $50,000 on this wacky idea that I have.
Right. Which will not hit your business ROI.
Which will not hit your business ROI, and we will do this for the next 1 year.
Right.
I don't know why any CMO would say, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
We actually gave new sales goals to our marketing function.
Sales goal to marketing function.
Which is, you have to help close this much. And that number is increasing. So to give you a sense, in the last 2 years, that number has doubled, if not tripled.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Slow Marketing Podcast, and with me I have got Ankit Chaturvedi, the head of marketing for RateGain. Ankit, first of all, thank you so much for coming to this podcast, and more than that, to give us this wonderful space for this podcast at the RateGain office.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for... Actually, I should thank you for coming, because you took out time on a weekday, on a busy day.
Yeah.
To come and do this with us. I know we've been trying to catch up.
Do this for a very long time.
For a very long time. So I'm very glad that we are doing this finally.
Yeah.
So yeah, really happy to be here.
Great. So Ankit, to start off with, I think I would love to have our audience know more about you, your background. I think you've done some phenomenal work over last decade or so, first at RateGain and before that at HCL as well.
Yeah.
So I won't give out more than this. I would let you sort of take it forward.
Sure. Yes. So I've been very, very lucky to be, at the right place and at the right time. Both at HCL Technologies, where I started my marketing career, and now at RateGain, where I got an opportunity to kind of get a green field to execute crazy ideas and have them backed by my leadership, right? And some of them have obviously bombed, and hopefully there'll be no marketer ever who says that all of his ideas were successful. But some of them have really helped us as a team learn a lot on how to drive growth, how to drive, how to do hacks, how to build content for your consumer, how to build content that resonates with people, right? So all of those experiments is what I can tell is the journey of my last 10 years. But before even that, I actually give a lot of the credit that of the learnings that I had in my tech career. And that's a very important aspect of how my marketing career shaped in, and you and I should definitely talk more about that. So I started with, as most engineers do, with TCS. And there again, I was very, very lucky. So you might call it unlucky, but I started during the recession, 2008.
2008.
There were no projects. Everyone was fighting to get onto a project.
And were you on the bench for some time?
I was on the bench for a very, very long time. And one of my cousins who's in the same organization actually said that enjoy this time till you can, because when you will start getting work, you will actually look back at the time that you were on the bench and wish that you could get that time back. And I think since the day I started getting projects and working on projects, I think it's just been up in terms of the amount of effort we're putting in achieving change and achieving our goals, right? So I started out at TCS with a very interesting project where they were trying to change the entire travel process that TCS had, right? And fortunately, ever since then, I've always been in a project or in the place where there was change being introduced. Be it TCS, be it HCL, be it HCL Corp marketing function, or be it RateGain. So it's been an interesting journey.
Right.
And that's all.
So Ankit, change is not usually a sort of a word that you would hear most marketeers talk about, but I'm glad you're talking about it. But in this conversation, I want to go a bit deeper into various things that you've done, right? And I don't want to keep it sort of superficial, right? So let's talk a bit more about your stint at TCS, right? You talked about that you were transforming or changing, the travel process, right? So tell us, what was the problem statement? What was your mandate?
It was quite fascinating, and I don't think we'll find any case studies around this. And it's sad we don't find it because we look at TCS as this massive shop
Right.
which is consuming and churning engineers at scale, right? Um, what we don't understand is what made that company what it is today is the fact that they followed their processes to the T and they identified very early opportunities. So before the word incubator came, TCS had its own incubator. The only difference was this incubator was an internal IT team. Now, in our parlance, internal IT would mean anyone who's looking at networks, anyone who's looking at systems. But TCS had a team which me and my brother were both a part of in the same office. So a lot of people would confuse us for each other, and most of the times he would be getting abuses and follow-ups
On your behalf.
on my behalf, right? So they had an incubator of a sort where they were building their internal applications by themselves. And they had an internal portal that they had built with around 108 applications. So any TCSers who are watching this podcast, it's called Ultimatics, and I think it exists even today. So they had different systems that they had built out for different geographies, and back in 2009 they were trying to automate the entire travel process. They were trying to reduce their entire travel desk process to one place. And their vision was that once I raise a travel request as an employee, everything should be paperless and everything should get completely captured online. I should not be required to call anyone. I shouldn't be required to send out an email. Everything should happen there. So because of the way that that company operated, it gave me a lot of exposure in setting up processes really, really well, or at least thinking of processes. So the minute someone would tell me now that, we need to build a workflow, I can think of the end state very quickly and start calculating the steps backwards to say, okay, we need to take care of A, B, C. We need to think of edge cases. We need to think of exceptional scenarios.
Right.
All of this is something that I learned at TCS. And I was a junior engineer trying to make use cases, right? And it also helped me understand how to do documentation because they would go in that much detail. But what they really drilled into me was taking away the fear of getting into data. How much data can you churn? Now, that wasn't a part of my job, but when you're migrating large systems,
you have to get into it.
Yes. So it was a very typical example that I was stuck with, which was they had 1.5 lakh employees then, and we were trying to map the process where if you're raising a travel request, the right passport is mapped to you.
Okay.
Right? And then basis that the system will check if you have the right visa, if you have the right permissions to travel, and only then you can raise a request. So if you have a single visit Schengen visa, you shouldn't be allowed to go to Europe because you're first required to raise a visa request.
Right.
Now to map this data with all the other systems, so I have an employee role, I have their visas, I have their passports. I didn't have a team to do this data analysis, so I did it.
Right.
Because what was the other option?
Yeah.
So funnily, that hustle culture and the culture of, okay, we have to do it by ourselves also came in through TCS. But how do you do this by thinking of the end goal also came through TCS, right?
How long have you spent at TCS?
So I was there for 2.5 years, which is the ideal time.
Right.
And this was an office in Malad.
Oh, you were in Bombay for some time.
I was in Bombay for that stint, and it was phenomenal. I don't want to talk about overwork, but we proactively overworked in getting this project up and running.
But what I find really interesting, Ankit, is the fact that, and this was probably your first stint, right? First
Yes,
corporate
first
stint, right?
first job, making 19,000 a month,
Right.
paying 40% in rent.
In Bombay. Yeah. No, but what I find really interesting is the sheer realization that you have that what is it you have gotten out of that 2.5 years stint, right?
Yeah.
Which multiple stages of your stint at maybe HCL or RateGain that has helped you, so that's very interesting because these are not things that people sort of realize, because you will, as a marketer, we end up talking about the largest stuff, right? The campaigns, the creatives, the communication, all of that. But I think process is also very important, right? Especially when you're working at a very large scale, right? And probably we'll talk more about it when we come to RateGain, and the scale at which you guys do multiple things, multiple marketing initiatives, right? So moving on from TCS, so next you joined HCL, right?
HCL. So HCL, I came and realized there are no processes, and that was absolutely unbearable for me for a while. But at that time, HCL was coming up with the whole idea of ideapreneurship,
Right.
that you need to think on your own. And what I loved about HCL was that HCL, and this is HCL Technologies, right? So the corporate marketing team of HCL Technologies, is this wasn't just a word written on a paper. This was the actual value in the team. That you need to come up with ideas and you need to execute them and you need to own them. And we were in Krishnan Chatterjee's org, reporting into Apur Chamaria, both of who are now at Google India. And we were fairly junior in their teams, right? But they gave not only us, but everyone on the floor that responsibility, that ownership, that this project is yours. You need to take ownership of this.
So you're literally like thrown under the bus and then figure it out how to solve it.
Right? And now you have process from TCS and you have ownership from HCL. And you combine that, and what we were able to create, at least what I like to believe, is very unique things at that time. Right? I remember that we were given a project to drive personalization on the website. And personalization was fairly new in 2015.
Yeah.
And luckily, my then manager was also an ex-TCSer. So his thought process was also very similar to mine, right? And we both started building out the entire process of how a visitor will come. Then what will he do? Then what the visitor should be able to see? What if he comes again? What if he's an existing customer? Now, all of this came because
Of the
TCS had drilled that think
edge
of
cases
edge
and-
cases.
Right.
Think of the edge case. Think of the end-to-end journey. And then we started thinking like that. And we built a very, very, very detailed product requirements or a functional requirements document, which I think I even have today. And when I look back at that document, I feel so proud of what we created.
Right.
And that's what you want to build, right? You want to build things when you look back 10 years down the line, you say, wow,
This is what
this
I
is still
did.
very good.
Yeah.
So we built that and we built a fairly good system there. We revamped the entire HCL website experience. We revamped entire thought leadership experience, and we'd increased organic traffic quite a bit on HCL. And but the brief from our leadership was not that go and revamp blogs. The brief was find out 3 problems you want to solve and then build projects around it. They didn't tell me what to do.
Right.
So what HCL gave me, and I was extremely lucky to be at that time in that team, was go find a problem and tell us why it should be solved and we'll fund you. Almost like a startup, right? So which is why I said that from the people that were at HCL at that time in marketing, the whole startup idea was very ingrained through their employer branding efforts. But as I said, it wasn't only on paper.
Hmm.
This was actually being practiced in marketing.
So for example, this finding the problem statement, then coming up with why we should solve for it, and then actually solving it. Was this on top of um your normal job description that okay, you have to do say A B C D, and on top of that find a problem and then
Yes.
solve for that?
Yes. So yes, it was on top of that. So we were building out the content marketing function in HCL, and there were your day-to-day jobs to be done that you had to do.
Right.
But there were these extra projects that were given to you, and but those projects were taken seriously. They were
Right.
followed up with. The approach was seen.
And I think that was also very important why one would not feel the pinch of going that extra mile, right?
Yeah. It was, I think, by that time in HCL, we had a lot of excitement and energy to do something new. We were interested in building the content and digital. Both of those functions were fairly nascent. We had the confidence of our leaders to say, we need to build this out. You guys tell us how this would be done. You're the younger lot.
Right.
Right? You know how this happens. We don't. So, and we were given a lot of access to a lot of resources. You want to go and talk to LinkedIn, please go ahead. You want to talk to Google, we'll arrange a meeting. You want to talk to an agency, go ahead. We will make it happen to you. It does not matter where you're in the organization. We will make it happen for you. Right? Which was very, very atypical for an Indian company to do. And then that's how I found my biggest problem to solve there, which was how quickly can we go to market? We are a 300 member team spread across 40 countries, but it takes us 25 days to put out a blog because no one really knows who to send it to,
Right.
how to do quality checks, what steps are required. So my last project there was building out this entire marketing automation platform, which essentially brought the entire organization on one platform to track analytics, to track content, to see who's working on what,
The
approvals, audit, uh, delivery, publishing, distribution.
Yeah.
All of that happened through that one platform. And it made it so easy for everyone across sales marketing, field marketing, content marketing, digital marketing to talk to each other. But that wasn't a CMO mandate.
Right.
It was an idea that germinated in my head, and my boss, and then his boss was kind enough to say, yeah, this is something we should do.
But actually, what I also find very intriguing is that such projects would typically not have, say, a business KPI to it, right?
Yes.
I mean, it would not directly impact, say, the traffic on the website, leads, etc., right? So, how do you really go about, say, convincing someone for such a project where it is the final outcome will not be directly related to a business KPI?
That's a great question, Neeraj, and that's the number one thing marketers have to develop now, especially young marketers who might not be coming with a formal education of marketing or starting in very small startups. They need to proactively think of, if it's not hitting my lead goal or my revenue goal, is it hitting an efficiency goal?
Right.
So you need to think of how many number of hours are we wasting in getting analytics?
Yeah.
How much time does it take for us to take analytics? So if you're taking analytics and if it's taking us 7 days to get analytics on a single campaign, what is the opportunity that I'm wasting?
Yeah.
Why can't I see it then and there?
So that I can plan for the next campaign. Yeah.
Right? Reusability of assets, traceability of assets, traceability of workflows. If you know how much work is about to come your way, you can plan the bandwidth of your design team.
Yeah.
Right? All of this you'll have to put into account to say, so what is the per hour billing of a person who does this? How much extra am I spending today to get output X? So can I reduce the amount I'm spending?
Yeah.
Because when you approach a business problem like that, it also positions marketing not as a cost center but as a center of profitability.
Yeah.
Where you're saying that, hey, we are not only looking to spend money, we're also constantly thinking about how to optimize the returns.
I think that's a great nugget, Ankit, for a lot of marketeers, because I mean, I meet a lot of CMOs, head of marketing, right? And in the end, in a lot of casual conversation, it comes up, marketing is a cost center. You have to always be very ROI focused, right? But I think this is a great way to justify what marketing can bring on the table, right?
Yeah, I
If
agree
you
with
can
you.
bring in efficiency, right? And that somewhere it does affect your, the cost that the entire company is bearing, right? From this function per se. So I think that's a great nugget that marketers should probably take a note of.
Yeah, any marketer, and the fun part is that it also prepared me to come to RateGain. Because in RateGain everything was and continues to be very ROI driven. So if I wasn't prepared in HCL to go and propose a project that was in no one's budget and say, hey, let's spend $50,000 on this wacky idea that I have.
Right. Which
And
will
we'll-
not hit your business ROI.
which will not hit your business ROI, and we will do this for the next 1 year.
Right.
I don't know why any CMO would say, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
With the help of my seniors, with their guidance, I was able to put this that, okay, let's think about how many hours are we saving. And this goes back to the learning that we learned at TCS,
Yeah.
which is what is the end goal, what are the steps, how will this impact us?
It's like your career had a natural progression. You
Yeah.
learned something at TCS, which you implemented at HCL, then from HCL to RateGain, right?
You also have to remember I'm a great storyteller.
Right.
So I can build that link, even if it. But that's how I like to believe. That's how this learning transformed into my next job. How the learnings of HCL transformed into what I could do at RateGain. But what I did at HCL was not completely applicable to RateGain on day one, because day one RateGain was a very scrappy setup. Right, marketing function had just started 2 years back.
Yeah.
2-3 years back maybe, and there was a change in the approach of our founder Bhanu on what marketing's role should be. But because I had learned at HCL, how do you pitch ideas, how do you show the benefit, that really helped me. The other thing that helped me through HCL, and now I can go and charge HCL after this because I've done enough branding for them, is, as I said, right, I was junior enough in the system, but no CVP or president of any business unit that they were running at that time for $1 billion, $2 billion ever stopped from meeting us. Right? If we wrote an email and said, we want to meet you, this is what we will discuss, they never said no.
I think that's also to do with how the marketing team is positioned in the organization. Right?
I absolutely agree with you. But it's also that you're going and approaching a business unit head and you're way smaller in the system. And then it also comes to communications. Are you able to show him the value of what your meeting will generate for him or her? Right? If you're able to do that effectively in a short email, number one lesson when writing to founders, CEOs, business unit heads, then they will come back and say, cool, let's meet. How will this help me? But no one said no, right? So that experience early on in my career also helped me understand how to talk to leaders, how to tell them what they want to hear in the shortest way possible. I don't believe that I've aced it. I'm still learning, but I have a decent understanding of it.
But how does one go about changing the positioning of the marketing function within an organization, right? And I think when we were chatting, you told me that when you joined RateGain, it was a very sales-driven organization. Marketing function was relatively new, right? So how do you go about that journey of changing the perception towards the marketing function?
I don't think I'll take any credit for it. It has to be slowly, it has to be through the value that your leaders see in the function, and then you matching up to their expectation, which cannot happen overnight.
Right.
Uh, if your founder, if your CEO does not get marketing or marketing's importance, then it will not happen. If they are willing to see that here is what we do today, we run a sales motion, and there is a benefit of looking at a marketing led motion, which might be more cost efficient, which might help us with more leads, which might help us with consistent measurement. And if they are willing to move in that direction, number one, only then you can change them. You can only change someone who's willing to change,
Right.
right?
But I'm sure you would have learned a trick or two to sort of get buy-in on certain,
Yes.
projects from leadership, right?
Always tell them this is how it will help in
Hmm.
new sales, revenue.
Hmm.
Help them understand that marketing is thinking like a business function
Right.
and not as a marketing function.
Hmm.
And drive that very deep into your own team as well. Because your team should be able to think like that. Your team should be able to prioritize like that. So, the number one thing that we did, which I feel is helping us also focus better and better align with the leadership, is we actually gave new sales goals to our marketing function.
Sales goal to marketing function.
Which is you have to help close this much. Right? And I've discussed this on different platforms as well. And that number is increasing. So, to give you a sense, in the last 2 years, that number has doubled, if not tripled. It has doubled, between doubled and tripled. And that's the expectation from marketing.
But as a marketer, you would generally would leave it at, say, an MQL, right?
Yes.
Typically, that's how you leads, MQL, SQL, right?
Yeah, but that's the mistake that we do, right? And it's not a flawless system. We still fight on MQLs. We still fight on why is sales not converting. But the ownership of marketing becomes a lot more apparent when you're able to tell that, hey, my bonus, my commission is attached to you closing your numbers.
So you better close
So
it.
number one, you better close it. Number two, what help do you need?
Yeah.
What can I do for you? Right? So in that scenario, the functioning of any program around ABM also becomes easier.
So
in whatever way you do.
Is it fair to say that you've somehow tried to embed a culture of enabling sales organically within the marketing team, right? Otherwise, typically what I've seen is that your sales team will come, they'll ask for, okay, I need A, B, C, D, E, right? Instead of the marketing team going and asking, okay, what do you need to really close this deal?
Yes. Yes. So that's one. Second is it also helped my marketing team to prioritize. Right? Prioritize effort. Are we doing it 100% correctly? No. Are we there 50%? Yes. 50% of the time, my team is able to think by themselves that if I do A versus B, A will get me more revenue. So I should double down here. From the fact that when the leads are coming in, you're not passing off everything. You're now looking at saying, what is my ICP? Which market should I target more? Where have I closed more?
You just don't forward it. Yeah, I mean, this is the number that I.
You need to have that analysis at the back of your head to say, these are the markets where last year we did really well. These are the markets where we got the maximum leads. We need to double down here.
Do you have a sort of culture code or value system for the marketing team?
I do, but I can't remember it right now. Uh,
Do you
but
think that is something that marketers should do?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Marketing has to have its own culture or a subculture within the culture of the
Larger, yeah.
organization.
Yeah.
And one thing that I keep telling my team constantly is that you're not building campaigns and you're not building what you're building for people only in this organization.
Right.
You're also building it to showcase to the world that this is what the marketing team at RateGain can do, right? But from a culture perspective, on it's very closely aligned to the culture that we have at RateGain of ownership
Yeah.
and being customer obsessed. But there's also kind of a guardrail around, how do we work with teams within marketing? Uh, how do we look at helping each other? So we have that, but it's
How does that translate into when you're hiring someone for the marketing team? Like, what would be some questions that you would typically ask?
so some of the questions. Okay, my interview process is very interesting. Some of the questions that I would ask is
And before that, I think I should also tell our audience that you've scaled the marketing team from, I think,
four post COVID.
four post COVID to almost 40 plus now,
Yeah,
right?
40, almost touching 40.
40, yeah.
Yeah, that's our investors wouldn't be happy about that. But yes, but that's where I said that we went from doing, X dollars in bookings for the company to now almost 5x of that number,
Right.
right? So, and that's measured very, 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 very well by our finance team. So we go hand in hand to help finance as a stakeholder understand this is where the money is going, this is where it will come out.
Yeah.
And that's a magic trick that every CMO, every head of marketing, every digital marketing head, regardless of where you are, you should use. That you should align the finance guy. You should help him understand how marketing works.
Yeah.
If they can understand how marketing works, they will be your best friend. They will go and defend you in front of the CEO. That no, they understand. We are measuring what marketing is doing. We are confident that they know where they're spending. We are in control of spends. You cannot.
So the magic is really to make more friends in, say, finance
Yes.
team, sales team. Otherwise, I mean, typically what you see in organizations, so sales, marketing, there's always a tussle.
No, here also.
I'm sure, but given what you're telling me, I think you take that initiative to bridge that gap, right, and bring everyone
Yes.
on the same page.
So my product marketing guys are very good friends with sales, very deeply connected, and so much so that sales feels comfortable enough that if we bring marketing on a call, at times marketing will add value.
Value, right?
That's a very hard place to reach for a marketing function. So yes, so if sales proactively reaches out to marketing constantly, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And then you will have to put a system where you're saying, okay, where do we focus more? This is a 10,000 deal versus a 90,000 deal. You will have to think of processes then.
Right.
You will have to communicate to sales that this is where we'll get involved, this is where we can't get involved.
But how do you create that visibility, right? Because a lot of times these functions also work in isolation, right? So how does one get visibility into, okay, what deal is sales working on? How do we prioritize? How does the marketing team get visibility into that?
I don't think we have a magic mantra for it yet. And I don't think there is a way. We are trying to solve this right now.
So that's a problem.
It's a problem because people who are sitting in our offices here, they are hand in glove, right? So the sales team and the marketing team know which deal is being worked on. But it's a problem that we are trying to solve right now. We're trying to drive a lot more CRM hygiene with sales. And we are not we're not blaming sales for not updating the CRM. We are saying we understand that you would rather choose not to update the CRM and go on a
and
call,
meet. Yeah.
on a meeting, because you are being measured against the revenue and sales that you can bring in. So let's figure out tools, let's figure out ways that you can automate this process so that marketing can know what's being worked on, what's getting stuck. So there is a lot of tech that's being brought in into the system, both by marketing and by our sales operations function. And then again, that's another function that you need to be in hand in glove with to be able to track a lot of things easily, right? I take a lot of pride now to say that across the organization in RateGain now, you have consistent dashboards available for the CEO, the sales head, the sales manager, everyone, right? Which has real-time data being updated every day. That might sound small, but it brings in a lot of insight. It brings in a lot of control. It makes that one source of truth that everyone keeps talking about. And I know the kind of difference that brings in to any conversation that you're going in.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you can have a conversation on, I've already seen the numbers. Let's talk about how we can improve them instead of which was happening. Which was happening in our case also, that no, these numbers are not right. No, actually the numbers are these, right?
Which is okay, but at least you have one common dashboard for everyone to look at, right?
Yeah, so that's happened. That's again happened with the collaboration of multiple teams coming together and realizing that this is a problem I need to solve.
So you don't have like a special projects team who really solves
We now
for
have a
these.
sales operations team, which also has scaled over the last 1 or 2 years. 1 year, I would say, who's kind of become this team that is helping us bring all this data together.
Right.
There is a special operations team, right? But that's more for strategic projects. But for our GTM motion, it's marketing, finance, sales, operations. These three teams work hand in hand in bringing in the technology, measurement, attribution, spends. So this Trioca is kind of connected together to make
But do
sure.
you guys still fight on whose budget will this tool be attributed to?
Not with finance.
No, but say between sales, marketing.
We do, but we also do a very healthy budgeting exercise, very disciplined budgeting exercise at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And throughout this episode or podcast, you will hear me mentioning finance a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I've said
Which is
this
very
publicly.
unlike most marketeers.
Yes, you have to be best friends with finance.
Yeah. But tell me about this. I've always been very curious. So you're the head of marketing. You would have certain budget in the year, right? And you would have multiple people running to you. Okay, Ankit, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need budget for this, right? How do you really account for this? Like, how do you really take care of this? That you don't exceed the budget. This is where I'm putting the budget. Is this right, wrong?
You be best friends with finance. So you check that every month. And you actually...
But you have a dashboard which is only to do with, say, budget, and that's where you...
Not dashboarded yet, but is it a pivot? Is it a table that I can refer to on a monthly basis?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I do. However, at the beginning of the financial year, me and finance sits, and before the beginning of the financial year, we've already spoken to all the heads of the businesses and agreed with them how much will we spend in their P&L.
Okay.
What will we spend on? What kind of results can we expect on that? Right? And then that's measured every month. How much am I spending every month?
Who does that? Who measures?
Finance.
Okay.
Right? So in finance, there's a function called FP&A, financial planning and analysis.
Right.
They measure that very, 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 very
Like
sharply.
that's their mandate, that okay, just...
Their mandate is the overall health of the business. And within that, there is where can we invest? Where do we put these dollars to get more results? That's what they're trying to do.
Right.
So we gave them a lot of exposure to understand marketing. How does digital work? How does events work? How can you measure events? We didn't hide anything from them.
So you actually did like workshops with finance team.
Yeah, hour-long discussions, endless discussions where we help them understand, when we invest in SEO, the ROI will never come immediately. This is what it will impact.
So I think, Ankit, this is actually an MBA in finance for marketeers, right?
Absolutely right. And it's one aspect that no B school will teach you. If you're lucky enough, you will get to learn that on your job. But the sooner you can get to know how is your finance team structured, what are their goals, what do they have to go and justify to the leadership, then you will also be able to think with them, solving their problem. So typically they are similar to a external customer.
Customer, right.
Right? And I use the word customer very carefully because we have this habit of saying he's your customer and they are your customer and she's your customer, but that's actually not true because everyone's working in the organization to help each other. Right? But if you think of finance as a customer, the same way that you would think of a customer that you would sell your product to, and think of what is the problem that they are trying to solve, and then make them understand that this is how marketing works, this is how you can use this data, this is how we will, then you'll have a lot better relationship with them, and you will understand from them, why are they asking you to control costs, what are the other ways you can think of saving money or investing better, and that would help you navigate a lot of the challenges within the organization. So as a marketer, you see so many memes, and I get so annoyed when I see these memes that marketers don't like Excel and marketers don't get numbers. But that's absolutely untrue. You cannot survive in marketing in 2024 if you're not, if you don't have numbers sorted, if you don't understand finances, if you don't understand analytics, your career will not go really, really far.
I think when marketers talk about numbers, that's mostly in regards to the data, customer data, etc., right? But I think this is a very important point, and I would completely agree with you that you also need to understand the numbers in parlance of your finance team, the budget, all of that.
Yeah. I see marketing. The ideal setup of marketing is that and this is something that I've heard in a lot of places also, they are the extension of the CEO.
Yeah.
So they are looking at their product and their sales strategy and their go-to-market strategy as the CEO. You'll hear the same thing about product managers also. But product managers might not always think about the go-to-market motion completely. Whereas the product marketer has to think about what is differentiating my product, what is my competition doing, what channel will be the best investment of my resources to get more business.
Right.
So in that regard, the product marketing guy is thinking more as the CRO or the CEO. And if you can get marketers who can think like that, then you will have a great marketing team who can drive ownership at their product level and can understand that this is what the business needs, this is what I should do. Those kind of marketers will need a lot less hand holding in navigating the structure within the organization and the challenges within the organization.
Right. So Ankit, that makes me curious about the mix that you have in your marketing team, right? And you mentioned it's nearly 40 people, right? So tell us broadly, I mean, what are the different teams within marketing that you have? What are the skill sets?
So we're still learning and evolving. But over the last 3 years, what we've been very successful in doing is to drive and create swim lanes.
Swim lanes.
Swim lanes is a terminology used to, like, this is your work, this is your work,
Okay.
this is your work. But swim lanes with a lot of respect for each other's function, right? It's not to say that if this is your work, I will not do someone else's work, right? And that comes back to the whole conversation that you had about cultural values and code, that we treat everyone at the same level, right? There is obviously some hierarchy,
Right.
but it's a fairly flat team. So if someone's not able to do something because they are stretched, can someone jump in? We still encourage that, but that's not how they are measured. You're not measured into how many fires you jumped into. You're measured on actual results that you drove. And those actual results are tied to the type of team you're in. Right? So the teams that we built out now is that there's a product marketing function
Which reports into
which
marketing.
reports into me with a twist that product marketing generally is not responsible for revenue and new sales, but here they are.
Okay.
So it's a combination of product marketing and demand generation, which is a tough combination to create because a lot of product marketers are great at positioning, differentiation, uh, and understanding the technical aspects of product marketing. And demand generation specialists are is a very different skill set.
Yeah.
We are trying to build a new hybrid model where these guys who are differentiating the product can also think of how do I go to market with this? How do I generate results from this?
So do you get such talents, or do you groom talent to become that?
Mostly we are grooming talents who get that, and the way that you would get those talents is you would always look at if they've done demand generation or not. Because if they have their fundamentals of demand generation in place and they know how to build content or write content the right way, they can be taught how to do differentiation and positioning, right? Instead of the other way around, that they know how to do differentiation, but they don't understand the complexities and the
Channels.
effort required to do demand generation.
Demand generation.
Then they will struggle at RateGain, right? But this function, this hybrid function that we are creating, is very similar to the whole CRO, CEO role reference that I was giving to you earlier. Because this person is thinking, I need to generate X dollars of bookings for my company, and I need to differentiate my product, and I need to work with product and engineering and marketing teams to get that kind of leads. But not only those leads, I need to make sure they are converted. So I need to ask sales why they are not converting. If they need any more help, then I create more content, more help documents, more efforts, and try to kind of cross the finish line on targets, right? So that's one function. Then within this function, we are building a dedicated inbound function. This is a fairly new initiative, so we've had some good success with it, but it's not at a scale where I can say that we've absolutely knocked it out of the park. There's some very interesting initial POCs that have become successful within a period of 1 year that we are now investing in scaling, right?
So you mentioned product marketeers,
And then
mentioned
inbound, right? And then there's a marketing operations function that we are building out because we are bringing in a lot of tech. Someone needs to manage that tech and make that tech useful, right? Because marketing now is equals to your customer experience, or your brand is equals to your customer experience. So the sooner your prospect is able to get in touch with a rep, and the sooner they can get response to their query, the higher the chance that they will do business with you.
Right.
So how do you make that process happen? How do you make the messaging more directed towards the right ICP? All of that tech needs to exist. Someone needs to do that analysis, feed it to product marketers. So we are creating that layer also now. And then there's a creative layer, which we are also building out because production is something that we are trying to increase constantly. And then there are regional marketing roles and standard marketing roles, right? Regional marketing, brand marketing, communications. But we are also being very judicious of how we invest into people. Where can we use AI, right? How much of AI will actually help? Because what you don't want is a technology bloat where you're bringing in a lot of systems, but they're not well implemented, they're not used well, right? Because you can bring in a lot of systems that can help you get up and running very quickly.
To be able to sustain that is a challenge.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two is, at the end of the day, the users are humans. So any change takes around 12 months of time
Yeah.
to show actual results, right? So we are trying to give that technology that time also, that are we able to see significant changes come through this technology? Only then we'll bring another technology, right? So
So it's not like we start using something 3 months, it's not working.
no,
Check it
no.
Give at least 12 months.
Give at least 12 months and set that expectation that this is what we've achieved. So show constant progress on, like, we POC'd this with this team, it's working. With this team, it's not working, we are working on fixing that.
And I sort of, one of the things that comes to my mind, Ankit, is how for a lot of things that you're doing here, you're not thinking of getting the results, say, tomorrow or next month, right? And which I think again goes back to maybe your learnings at TCS, thinking about the end goal and outcome that you're seeking, but also giving enough time to make sure, that one is able to reach that point successfully, right? And I think the new positioning that we have also come up with, which is the slow marketing, right? So that is also to do with, how you should do marketing not just for today or immediate result, but actually which helps you create brands for the future, right? So I mean, I loved the approach that you have at RateGain.
Yeah, it's not completely this approach. So we are measured on certain outcomes
Yeah, I'm
constantly,
sure. Yeah.
right? And our investments are also fairly measured. I'm not going to come. So my team is very conscious in taking decisions, uh, wherein they now understand that if we want to bring in a new technology or a new initiative, we are not going to go and ask for $100,000.
Yeah.
We will understand if we can start at 5,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Do a POC, show
Do a
some
P-
initial
yes,
success, and then
yes.
we take it forward.
But what will be very important in this, again, this becomes the whole external customer versus internal customer debate. But I will still use the word customer, and yet carefully. When you are implementing technology, and the first thing that we started in this podcast was with change.
Right.
The number one thing that a marketer will have to remember is they will have to deal with change management. Internally first, externally later. So they'll have to start teasing the idea of the change that they are bringing in much earlier and much before the actual product comes in. So start teasing the problem that you will solve. Start repeating that problem constantly to your leadership, to your peer group. That this is a problem. This is a problem. We are bringing this product. By the time that product comes, people are like, we know why this is exactly come, and we'll use it.
That internal communication is very important.
It's very important. We are fairly bad at it. We are trying to fix it. But these are lessons that we are learning as we speak. And make the problem very simple for people to understand. I'm implementing X because you will be able to do Y. Make it as simple so that that sits with anyone in the organization at every level. And then keep repeating that. But don't make it a positioning that you can't back up with data. When you say, I am implementing X so that you can do Y, then show why.
Show why, obviously.
That this Y is going up, or this is what is getting fixed.
Yeah.
And because of this, here are your numbers that are improving. Right? So then a lot of people will have a lot more trust in your function to say, when they bring in something,
There's a thought process.
there's a thought process. They will invest for the betterment of the company. And then they're able to think a little more long term. That, let's think of long term. So that's also a change that is coming in slowly with us being listed, with us being a public company. That whatever changes we will bring will add value over the long term and not immediately.
Yeah.
So consciously in marketing, you have to run on two speeds: short term, long term, short term, long term. And that's a balance you'll have to keep as a business leader also, but more as a marketing leader.
Marketing leader.
That I can do a scrappy campaign short term, but how does it hurt me in the long term?
Long run. Yeah.
So you'll have to weigh off those risks and make sure you kind of
That's very nice.
take that into consideration as well when you're doing anything in the company. Because only as marketers you have to worry about data privacy, data security, spam calling, brand authority, reputation management, crisis management. There are so many parameters that connect you to so many teams that you have to constantly think of that.
Right.
Why can't everyone just send out a mail blast from their own Word document? Because no one except a marketer understands that most mail servers will start blocking your domain.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to go and educate sales that please send it from a system
Yeah.
which will have a policy and an SOP that we can only contact people in once in 30 days. Now, a lot of this sounds like someone in IT should be telling us this, but this is something that marketing has to do. And for that, marketing has to understand GDPR and IT policy and spam policies.
And especially, with company like RateGain, which is working globally, I think that becomes even more important. Yeah.
When should people be contacted? Where should they not be called upon?
Right.
All of that.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ankit, you sort of brought me to my next question, which was about the company being listed, right? And I think
I'm always linking things.
Yeah.
Neeraj.
So I think that was one of the, and I think I won't be wrong in saying that was one of the biggest project that you handled in your career, right? Which was when RateGain went for IPO, then everything that was done, say 12 months before it, preparing for IPO from a marketing standpoint. Will I be wrong to say that it was the biggest project of your life?
It was. It was. But it was not 12 months before.
Was it more?
It was 6 months before.
Okay.
Which is why
But yeah, tell us about this, right? First, I think very few marketeers are fortunate enough to be at a place and to do this. So I think, again, you were at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But yeah, walk us through it. How do you really think about it? What is the expectation of the leadership? I'm sure there are a lot of guidelines in terms of what you can do, what you cannot do, what SEBI allows, what it doesn't allow. So just talk us through that.
Yeah. So when we started the IPO process, I think our CFO was in the hospital battling COVID with severe lung damage, right? So that's the backdrop in which we are starting the IPO process. The travel industry has been completely decimated.
Yeah.
So no one's really lining up to work for you and say, hey, we want to join RateGain. So you don't even have enough people. So you have maybe 6 or 8 people, in which majority of them were finance. Then our current chief strategy officer, Yogesh, me, and Bhanu. And then the bankers, and then the lawyers, and then all of these people that most marketers would never speak with.
Or not like to speak with.
Or would not like to speak with, or not understand what their job is. And I was thrown in the middle of this where we were still crafting our DRHP. We were still in the process of crafting our DRHP, and the investor presentation for the roadshow was being prepared. And I remember that, as soon as I got involved, the first ask was, we don't like this. Can can you change this? So I formatted it. So
The presentation, the
Yeah.
roadshow presentation.
and then the feedback was no. We need to change this. This is not
But
us.
what really is this roadshow presentation?
You have to go to investors and go and pitch to them that this is what our company is, this is what our prospects are, this is how we will grow. And we made a video overnight which explained the concept of rate gain, because that was the biggest challenge that we had, because we'd never been India focused. No one understood rate gain, let alone rate gain. They did not understand what travel technology is.
Yeah, travel SaaS. Yeah.
They did not understand the category at all. They only understood that there is travel.
Which is
They
the
did
make
not
my trip of
understand.
the word.
Yeah, they did not understand SaaS, and they did not understand travel SaaS. So I had one massive unaware community where we had to start from the basics. And we realized this, that and we also realized that this customer that we are talking to is a customer that is not even willing to know what your company is. He's trying to understand how will you make money in a period when your entire industry has been brought down to its knees. How is this sector going to make money, and why should we invest in it? That's the time when we were trying to go public, and it helped me go back to the drawing board and start thinking about how do we tell the story of RateGain. So we did this video overnight. Me and my designer, we got one sales guy who had a very nice British accent to do the voiceover, right? And these are the hacks that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now, you are the founder of a company and you tell your marketing team that I need a video. And you're like, okay, budget, sir. No, I don't have that kind of budget. So you start thinking that, okay, I have one day. I need clips and I need a story. Once you've cracked the story and you've got the right person to do the voiceover, then the visuals can be put together. So we did that. That became very easy for anyone and everyone to understand what RateGain does. That video is still on our YouTube channel. And it starts with imagine the perfect trip. Right? And it does not go into we do X number of data points, we do this, we do that, we do that. It goes into a very simple emotion.
It was also for a mass audience, not really
exactly right. So imagine a perfect trip full of smiles, and it goes into what you would feel on a great trip, and then putting the question in your head that, but have you ever imagined how all of this is done?
Right.
It's done by RateGain. And throughout that video, on every movement that we are showing in the traveler's journey, we are saying this is what RateGain is able to do. This is what. So people could connect. I hope they could.
Yeah.
But and I would love to believe that they could. But that was the first hurdle that we had to solve. Right.
So the communication.
The communication. The number one point for anyone to remember, and I learned this during that project and after that project, is that IPO is a marketing campaign. It's not a finance campaign, or it's not a finance project. It is a finance. It's a massive finance undertaking because you have to have your papers in order. You have to do a lot of regulation. There's a lot of work that finance has to do. But
in the end, it's people have to buy what you're selling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the earlier you involve marketing in it, the better it is. Right?
But were you aware of, okay, if I have to do this, then these are the 5, 6, 10 things I have to do?
During the IPO process, no, I was calling people and learning from them.
Who have done this before?
Who've done this for a living, right? Agencies, our partners, we called them, pulled out a lot of personal favors, asked constantly, what should I do, what should I do, what should I do? Because I actually did not know anyone who had done an IPO.
Right.
Right? And they were kind enough
Yeah.
to tell me think of this, do this, do this. And some of it was then learning. Some of it was learning. But as soon as we built the DRHP, we realized after submitting the DRHP that it's too complicated. So then in the presentation, we tried to simplify everything constantly. Every time we got feedback and thought that this slide is too complicated, people are getting stuck at this slide, we would go back to the drawing board
and fix it.
But the only problem in that was I could only do that once the roadshow was over, because once your roadshow starts, you can't change your slide deck. So
what exactly is a roadshow like?
It's a virtual. It was a virtual roadshow because this was during COVID. So we were
doing like webinars.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hundreds of it.
Is this like a mandate by SEBI that you have to do these roadshows and
by your bankers?
By bankers.
By your bankers. You have to go and tell their sales teams that this is how you would sell, and then you meet a lot of other people.
But how do you get the audience to?
Your bankers get them.
Bankers.
Your bankers would get them. And your bankers are responsible to get those audiences in front of you.
Got it.
Right? So they would bring those people in, and they would be a massive 1, 2, 3 week. You're constantly either on the road if you're doing it physically, or you're online.
Okay.
And I think our management had done 100 calls, if not more, telling their story, right? And they improvised every time they did that.
And this would be with institutional investors or retail investors?
Institutional investors.
Okay.
Retail investors was a different experience, but institutional investors mostly.
Okay.
Retail investors roadshows depend on how big your retail portion is. So we did one in Rajkot, and
like a physical one.
Like a physical roadshow.
Okay. It would be like a PR event of sorts?
It was a PR event. There was a room full of retail investors who knew the market. And we were talking about AI and SaaS. And
why Rajkot?
Rajkot is the third largest market for retail traders and investors. Very interesting city. It also has a very big manufacturing base. So there's a lot of capital that has traditionally flown in that market, and it's not very, very far from Bombay, from Surat, from all these manufacturing and trading hubs. So I think after Bombay, Ahmedabad, Rajkot is the third largest, and on a short notice, that is where we could do it quickly.
So you did the roadshow for the institutional investors. You did one for the retail investors.
My management did it for institutional. I did one. I was part of that.
Right.
I was lucky enough to hear it, learn from it.
And what else?
Then we did one for the press, for the Hindi media and the English media, which is also very interesting because you're trying to explain to them technology which is not very easy to grasp. So which was also very, very interesting to do. But
it was really and I think RateGain till that time would have completed 20 years, right?
No, we've completed 20 years now. But yeah,
so
17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
So after almost 17 years, you have to really dumb down your
story. Yeah.
For everyone to understand.
And it's not an audience that is very attuned to how SaaS works, how travel technology works. So we started with the frame of reference, and this goes back to the basics of marketing. Always have a frame of reference. Right? And then be able to tell from that frame of reference what is your points of differentiation.
Yeah.
This is like lesson 1 of marketing, right?
Yeah.
Frame of reference, IT services. IT services has helped you earn a lot of money over the years, and there's a new wave of technology that's coming in that will come into the market,
which is SaaS.
And we are one of the first ones to bring this to you. And here is the difference, right? Between IT services and SaaS. That's what we first tried to educate them on. And after we did that, then we got into the opportunity of travel. How big is travel? How big can it get? And then we tried to also educate them with their own context. Like, look at India. Look at how much travel is happening in India. And what we had done before the IPO was we had done a lot of local coverage in Economic Times, in other newspapers, showing the recovery of travel,
Okay.
right?
For the category as a whole.
For the category as a whole in India. That
This
is how
was pre this
this
6
is
months.
this is pre 6 months. Obviously, I did not know if you were going for an IPO, but pre 6 months, I had done a lot of data for the recovery of Indian markets. Where are people traveling? How quickly the market recovers?
Right.
Because all of that became relevant when we started talking about how quick will be the recovery of the travel industry. How less is the impact of COVID now? From wave 1 to wave 2 to wave 3 to wave 4, right? So we had data around all of that, which goes back to the fact that if as a marketer you can think of data, if you are comfortable with data, then you'll be able to build these stories.
Right.
And you know that any editor or any associate editor or any special correspondent needs data.
Obviously.
Because think of them as your customer as well. They need to go and justify to their editor that here's a story which is unique, here's a story which tells us what is changing, and we should put this, right? So if you give them that, we feel that this will help you get the story in, you'll be more than happy to take it.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that if you need a source to trust, you have RateGain.
Right. Right.
And then you made that position in their head. And you do that enough number of times successfully, you will start getting people calling you and saying, can we get more data around this? Right? And then you'll have a good problem then, because a lot of people will be calling you and saying, can I get more data?
Right. So it really started with building positivity around the category. Then it was roadshow for the institutional investors, retail investors. What after that?
Once you've listed is when the actual story starts. Because then you're managing perceptions. Then you're stuck on the stock price. How will I take the stock price up? Right? But leading up to the IPO process, your role kind of is still the retail investor excitement.
And how do you really build that excitement?
It totally depends on how well known your category is.
So, for
When we
example,
listed,
I've seen companies prior to going for an IPO, they would have some big hoardings, big print ads, everything going live.
Those are, and this is controversial, those are very stock options. This is like, ये कर दो. क्यों कर दें? Why should I invest in this? You should then think of your TG, right? I'm sure those are calculated decisions, but in a lot of cases, those are stock options given to you. Here's the budget, spend. And because either your marketing guy is being told by the CFO or the CEO that, okay, let's just do this. And the marketing guy is thinking that maybe this is not a marketing campaign. So let's just go ahead with what the PR firm is saying and do it. We didn't do it. We didn't do one hoarding. Because we knew that doing a hoarding in a public place will not solve anything for us.
Or a print ad.
We did some print ads which were statutory.
Okay.
Which were like, okay, let's do this.
Because it has to be done. That's mandatory.
It has to be done. Let's do this because you guys are suggesting that visibility is important. But we actually went and said, who do we really want to target and where are they? Right?
So do you really create cohorts within the retail investors as well? That, okay, within the retail investor segment.
My point was that if I put RateGain out there on a hoarding, no one's going to understand anything.
Right.
If I put a print ad, no one will understand what RateGain is. I need to do category education. So, and luckily the rules around influencer marketing and brand insertions at the time we went public were a little more lenient. Now they've become a lot more strict on what you can say, what you cannot say. You have to clearly suggest that this is a product that is endorsed. So we actually partnered with a few influencers to educate them about RateGain, not really say that you will invest. We were not in that game. We said, please go and educate people and say that this is what this company does. Because unfortunately, before us, the companies that had listed were all loss-making new age tech companies. Some of them had a bumper opening, some of them had a muted opening, and the overall perception was that these new age companies,
they're not worth it.
They are crashing the system. And
Maybe, people would have changed that perception now, but
yes,
back then, yes.
So true. We had to now suddenly, right before the IPO, work on that narrative as well, and say that no, it's not. It's been profitable for it's only been loss making for 1 quarter because of COVID. Otherwise, it's a profitable business. It's been run very prudently by the founder.
And how importantly is the founder's personal brand?
Oh my God.
During this
that's a separate podcast, Neeraj.
Okay.
You'll have to come back or your crew will have to stay for longer. It's extremely critical.
From an IPO point of view.
It is extremely...
I'm sure, in general also you would agree that in general personal branding is important, but for IPO...
I'm not saying personal branding is not important or important. It is. Is it important? Absolutely. Does everyone do it? To varying degrees, yes.
But for IPO...
But the perception of your founder is extremely critical. We are in an emotional country. We need to be able to tell a story about the founder as well. How much skin does he have in the game? Does he have a clean image? All of this matters.
Yeah.
We had analysts who would come in here and see a office filled with people and feel good that, oh my God, you have people in the office working. This is so heartening for us. Even if I had all interns, they never asked what team.
Yeah.
We've had those analysts as well who walked the floor and randomly stopped people and said, what do you work on? Right? But the kind of access that we've given to them has been appreciated by the analyst community. That, RateGain is an open book. It's easy to understand. But the founder perception is extremely, extremely critical. And in that regard, we are extremely lucky that, there you will not really find a lot about Bhanu, right? Except that he bought a house, right? Which is also now. But at the time of the listing, there wasn't a lot about him, which is good and bad. I would see it more as bad that, we should have done a lot more way before.
But did you do something during those 6 months to build his profile?
Not that I remember. We could not do a lot because we had such a short notice to do the IPO that there are restrictions that kick in on what you can say and what you cannot say. So my recommendations to anyone who's thinking of an IPO is that before your DRHP is filed, involve your marketing team and try and include as many facts as possible that you might want to use for promotions and have a backup of that fact. A backup essentially would be that the banker and the lawyer should be able to prove that this is something which is validated by them. So include that as much as possible. Case studies, facts, achievements.
But you don't necessarily need like a campaign, right? For example, in case of RateGain, I think it was more about making people just aware about RateGain, right? That was the need of the hour. But not necessarily a fancy campaign.
No, you don't need a fancy campaign. Again, you need to kind of roll up your sleeves and understand what is the actual problem I need to solve. And then go and solve it. Do you need mega budgets for it? No. Is it good to have a budget for it before the IPO? Yes, definitely. Definitely helps if your founder is known. People are investing in people.
Yeah.
Right? Shiv Nadar had this very famous CNBC interview. People buy from people. such a profound learning that he gave. At the end of the day, people invest in people, people buy from people.
Right.
So your persona will be looked upon on who you are, what you do. And there are enough examples that you can look at, some of the most successful consumer companies that are listed, right? Where you will see the personal brand immediately changing over the last 1 year,
Yeah.
right? When we look at, let's say, Zomato, the amount of visibility on LinkedIn that Dipinder has now, and the amount of content he's posting about product
Yeah.
features,
Yeah, it's insane.
that's not personal branding.
Yeah.
He's building perceptions for the investors,
Investors, right?
right? You've gone from a wacky brand, which you continue to be, and you continue to do amazing stuff as a brand, to a founder that is constantly talking about product features. Look at the amount of product features he's come out
Yeah,
with
exactly.
in the last
Within
2-3
last
months.
2-3 months, right?
Group ordering, this,
And I think that somewhere, again, there's no direct correlation, but yeah, the stock prices now are much better placed as compared to what it was earlier, right?
right. So that's a conscious effort, and you will see that with a lot of founders who have very good sense of marketing and who have time in listing, that they focus a lot on this.
But as a marketer, as a head of marketing, CMO of a company, uh, is personal branding of founders should be a mandate for the marketeer, like the CMO marketing team?
The personal branding of a founder should be the mandate of the founder as well.
As well, right?
As well.
Yeah.
If your founder, your leadership needs to understand that it is their KRA also to talk about the company and themselves. Personal branding is important for everyone. If my junior person also walks out of the office and either has swag or conducts himself in a way that people look at him and say, what a great person, where do you work? RateGain. Right? Or contradictory to that, if he behaves in a certain way which is not appreciated in the society, where do you work?
Again,
RateGain.
Yeah.
Right? Our biggest employer branding has been done by a comedian,
Comedian.
Harsh Gujral.
Okay,
I don't know if you know this. There's a very famous reel between Abhinav Bassi and Harsh Gujral talking in COVID. Harsh Gujral had worked in RateGain.
Oh, is it?
Yes. That's our biggest employer branding ever, right? And whatever his experience was,
Right.
this was back in 2010. And every year I get that reel in my feed or through a message by someone who did not know RateGain. And they're like, RateGain?
Oh, he actually mentioned RateGain.
He mentioned RateGain.
Okay.
That, he was hired, he was supposed to do something, and people thought he knew what to do, but he was actually doing it in the absolute wrong fashion. That was the joke, right? He's not commenting on the company. He's not commenting on anything else. But people were like, RateGain.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably pause our podcast here and play that reel for our audience and just forward it to me after this.
Yeah. So he did that, right? So he created a brand for you. Now, if my founder does that, if I do that, if my CFO does that, CHRO does that constantly,
The kind of ripple effect it will have is immense.
Yeah. Right?
And that's like
I hadn't used Zerodha before I knew Nitin Kamath. I knew Nitin Kamath and then I knew Zerodha.
Oh.
Personal brand.
Yeah,
I saw
honestly.
him. And then there are ample examples.
So I think most marketing books or whatever you read about marketing, usually personal branding is not a vehicle or a medium you would typically consider in a marketing mix, right? But I think in the age that we are living today, I think that has to be a part of the marketing mix, irrespective whether it's a marketing team's mandate or the founder's mandate. But I think that helps a lot in building a certain perception about the company.
I agree with you. Not only the company, but the product also that you're associated with. And we now live in an age where social currency is everything.
Right.
who do you know and who is on your feed commenting and liking is
Very
a
important.
matter of pride and something that people talk about a lot. So people will go looking for people, right? They will follow people. They might not follow brands as much as they might follow people, right? And the resurgence of LinkedIn as a platform, and I don't think LinkedIn has anything to do with that. It's just that the Facebook generation shifted to LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah.
And you couldn't write as much on Instagram. So now you're writing on LinkedIn. Um, that shift has helped a lot of people build personal brands and sell products. The other shift that we're noticing is the rise of, and this has been happening for some time, right? The rise of the knowledge economy, that you have infinite resources to go and learn online and follow people and take their playbooks. I do that constantly. Why not? I mean, why should I say that, no, this guy who's been doing this for 5 years, I can't learn anything from him? So you go and follow a lot of people and you try and learn from them to take their approach and try and apply it in your business. And that allows, again, a lot of personal brands to be built in the B2B marketing side. And
That actually reminds me, sorry to cut you, of a very interesting anecdote that happened recently. So you would see on LinkedIn a lot of these people, actually sharing their playbook, right? Comment
yeah.
playbook below, right?
Yeah.
I actually forwarded something to someone I know, and I told them, I mean, here's the link, and you should probably comment. That's how you'll get that, right? And that person was not willing to do that, right? Again, not everyone is open to sort of learn it, but in the age that we're living in, as you mentioned, the knowledge economy, right? You have access to everything, but one should also be open to learn that, right?
Yeah.
Which is also, I think, one of your innate nature, to be curious and to constantly learn as a marketer, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not only as a marketer, but you also have to learn as a marketer, but also learn as a person about
Yeah.
people, about cultures. And never shy away from saying, I don't know. If you walk into my room today, the first board has this written. The only thing I know is that I don't know. Right? This is not newfound gyan. This is 3,000 years old or 2,000 years old. Socrates said this. It's so refreshing if you read this every day. The only thing I know is that I don't know. Right? The minute you tell yourself I don't know, then you're constantly learning and absorbing. And I'm extremely infamous in my team for being on LinkedIn constantly in the mornings. Infamous, right? It's like a thing that my team teases me that, oh, we think you were busy because we didn't see you in everyone's comments on LinkedIn. And I'm not trying to post and create a brand. I'm trying to also comment and engage with people a lot.
Yeah. No, I've seen you. I mean, you would present, say, your point of view on certain things, right? It's not really just, yeah, great, congratulations, all of that, right? I'm sure, I mean, you would be doing that, but it's mostly presenting what you think or what you don't think about something, right?
Yeah. And it's a hack for people to build their network. Comments. You do not have to have a post. You do not have. You can start your personal brand with just commenting on people's posts. People will see it. People will like it. People will have a perspective of you before you walk into a meeting.
Right.
If your LinkedIn is empty, people also will build a perspective about you before you walk into the meeting. That he has no perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
He does not have an opinion.
Do you check the LinkedIn of the person whom you're going to hire?
Not hire. Everyone I meet. Is it bad? Is it good? I don't know. But if I'm having a business meeting with someone, I will check their LinkedIn.
And do you create certain perception about them?
Not perception. I try to understand where are they coming from. What can I talk to them about? And yeah, it's like having a cold call. Right? So the minute you walk in, I should be able to. So I try to look for mutual connections, any shared history to start a conversation. So
yeah,
that's something that I will always do because it helps me ease the person into my conversation. right? And this is something that you had asked me earlier about my interview process. I will check their LinkedIn to see if there's a mutual connection or shared history or the same university, and I can ease them into the
And
interview
bring them on the
process,
same level so that
same level, and so that they can be themselves in the interview process
that's very important.
and not feel that I'm judging them or that this is like I'm higher up here hiring them and they are lower down there. They have services to provide. I have services that I need. Can they give me the services in the culture, environment, and the pace that I need it at? If they can, good enough. If they can't, doesn't mean they are not good enough. They might not be a fit for my culture. Right? I am very clear at the beginning of an interview process that this is how this process will go with me. That takes out a lot of anxiety out of people's mind. That okay, this is how this interview will go. And then I will check if they've disrupted something, if they've taken initiative, right? How's their CV written, right? Are they articulating the benefit first, or are they saying, I did this? The minute you're saying, I did this, it means that someone told you to do this and you've done it. But the minute you say that I increased, that means that you were always thinking of the outcome first
And you had the ownership of doing it.
right? So that is something that we will test, and then I will also test how easy or hard you find to get into data, right?
How do you check that?
So one is your CV will tell you that, and the second thing is you will understand from their experience on how did you make decisions. How did you make decisions?
What was the data behind it?
What was the data behind it, right? Do you get the right answers always? 50% of the time, I would say I would get the wrong answers.
Or at least you get an understanding of how are they thinking about data and
yes. And then I would come to them to understand, right, that what really drives them. If they had enough money and resources and they didn't have to work for a day, what would they do with the 24 hours that they have? That's important because you need to understand why are they getting up in the morning. You and I were chatting that you get up every morning because you're like, I want to build something. I want to create a difference. I want to meet new people, have new experiences. Why do they get up in the morning is a very critical question in my interview, and most people get stumped at that because they're not expecting that question. They're expecting that everything will be from the CV. Now I've given away my secret, and all of my interviews are ruined after they watch your podcast.
All right. So, Ankit, you have almost spent like more than a decade in B2B, right?
Yeah.
B2B marketing. Do you ever feel that, I'm done with B2B, let's switch to B2C, do more sexy stuff?
Sometimes I do, but...
About doing sexy stuff?
About doing sex. But the beauty of any good marketing campaign is how subtle is it? I mean, you will oscillate between let's make a bang and let's create a big impact. That's mostly B2C. Because you're talking to your consumers in a very cluttered space. So you need to first get attention. B2B is not like that. B2B is like wine, where you need to start slowly appreciating the wine making and wine tasting process. I am not a connoisseur of wine, but you will see a lot of people and a lot of restaurants. There's an entire process to it. How you smell the wine, how you taste it, how you swirl it, and how do you enjoy it. B2C in this comparison, and with absolutely no disrespect, because it's at a massive scale and massive, in more cases, a lot more advanced than B2B, is like having shots. So you go from one large campaign to another large campaign once in 3 months to 6 months, right? You invest a lot of dollars, you invest a lot of machinery to achieve big results because you have to grab attention, right? And you obviously do a lot of innovation, a lot of things happening in B2C, but they're like shots. You can't have shots every day. But with B2B, you'll have to help them sip wine every day. And eventually take them to a stage where they realize that I actually like this brand. I should buy from this. Now, the subtlety of doing that is what makes it a lot more interesting. Looking at signals, looking at data. And we are at a very interesting inflection point where a lot of companies are going from sales led motions to product or marketing led motions where a lot of automation is coming in. We sent this gift out. Did they receive it? Did they come back to our website? What did they do? What did they like? So a lot of the B2C behavior is coming to B2B. And again, this B2B, B2C differences in our heads. What's also happening is that the experience of the consumer is blurring very fast. I'm getting 10 minutes service from Blinkit. Why am I waiting one day for a B2B?
Call back from a B2B company.
Right? So those lines are blurring really fast.
Yeah, because in the end you're talking to humans and the human nature cannot change.
Yeah. Right? My mind will not say, oh no, this is a B2B company. It's okay for me to wait one day. So internally also you'll have to constantly think of people's behavior and think that will it be better if we reach out to them instantly or we chat with them instantly? So that's happening. But again, chatting with me instantly will not make them ready to buy from me. There'll be a lot of steps. Understanding the steps and making that change makes it a lot more interesting. B2C is extremely interesting, but I'm not that enamored by it right now that, I should move over to B2C and do it. Also, this is my perception.
Sip wine for some more time.
Sip wine and this is my perception, right? And this is the world that I live in. So I know what I know. What I don't know, I don't know. You can get a lot more hands-on in B2B. You can do stuff by yourself in B2B. You will be required to do stuff by yourself in B2B because you will not have crores and millions of dollars at your disposal to run massive campaigns all the time. Unless you reach that scale. Right? So you will have to do demos, evaluate tech, write copy. You'll have to do that. B2C, because your scale is so big, you don't have that time. You'll have to get an agency. You'll have to get partners to do it. And you'll have a lot more problems to solve than thinking of the perfect copy that you will crack, right? So that hands-on nature of B2B really, really excites me. Where I feel that I'm still in the process, I'm still involved, I'm still taking decisions. I get scared when I'm moving away from the process and I'm not that informed on what's happening in this business. That's my fear. So in B2C, maybe as you grow, you don't have that much control or that much knowledge. And a lot of it is done by very large agencies and a lot of partners. So that's how I feel about the difference of what I do versus what consumer companies do.
Got it. Okay, so we had a lot of interesting and intense conversation. Let's lighten things a bit. So we have something called that one rapid fire. Okay, I have a bunch of questions, and I would want you to give me a quick, short answer to that. Right? Are you ready?
With short answers, though, but yeah.
Okay, got it. And again, it's in the context of a marketeer, right? So that one app that you can't live without.
Strava.
What does it do?
Strava is a fitness app. I can't show a six-pack here because I don't have one. It's in the context of B2B, it's a beautiful app in visualizing data of your workouts.
Got it.
Right? So this is not a short answer. So
that next one, one thing that you feel insecure about not knowing as a marketeer.
If I don't know enough about the business, then I get very insecure.
Be specific. What in business?
Like, let's say if I'm working for a product, I need to know as much as I can about that product. Otherwise, I will feel insecure that, okay, maybe I'm not able to think through enough because I don't know enough.
Got it. That one campaign or initiative that you took, which was very close to your heart, but that bombed.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. So we did a competitor campaign. I'm not going to take the name because it was supposed to be a covert operation. And we worked with this absolutely amazing agency who the brief was that you have to make horrible creatives. You have to make the creatives to look as if they are not made by an agency. It's made by an actual person who's annoyed with the product that he's using. And the product is a competition's product. And we gave the entire campaign a beautiful name. It was very sarcastic. It just didn't stick. It just didn't have the impact that we wanted it to have. Either we did not give up enough time, or it was too beautiful looking. It wasn't clutter breaking in the wrong sense.
Okay.
But it was very dear to my heart.
Yeah. And that one campaign or initiative that was bombed by the management. I'm sure there are a lot, but
There was. So it wasn't bound by the management. We didn't have the resources to do it. We had a beautiful campaign that we had thought for investor awareness, where we wanted to show the scale of our data, and we had really, really narrowed down the location for this, the technology for it. And I still believe in that campaign a lot, which was, imagine if you were sitting at the airport and you have to be at the airport for 2.5 hours, right?
right.
So the Delhi airport has all these display screens. They are programmable. The data can be personalized basis where you are sitting. And we had suggested that the campaign that we should do is that depending on where the flight is going from what gate, we actually show you RateGain's data on what kind of traffic or what kind of amount of travelers are coming there, what's the weather, what events are happening,
Whatever data is captured.
how are hotel prices there, and show it on programmable screens, because you're at the airport for 2.5 hours, and everyone who's at the airport is either going to work for you because they are in that category, or might invest in you, or might be a retail investor.
Right.
So the awareness that you will create in this highly targeted crowd with highly contextualized data will create very easy awareness about RateGain. They will instantly understand this is what RateGain does.
So this bombed because you did not have resources.
We don't have budget and resources to execute at that time. This is when we had just come out of COVID, right? So there was a choice to be made, and it wasn't a very costly undertaking, but it was substantial budget that we had to invest.
That one wasn't short, but I'll give you for that. Next one, that one brand for which you would want to start working tomorrow.
Spotify.
Why?
Now, I had counted you on B2C. Similar reasons for listing Strava. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary called The Playlist, which is Spotify's documentary. The way they use data and the experience on their app is just phenomenal. And their earlier vision is very, very close to my heart, because this is a personal ambition of mine, right? They wanted to bring out all the unlisted artists who are not signed up on labels on their platform. Their vision has changed now as they grew, but that was their initial vision. And this is something that is very, very close to my heart, of discovering music which people don't really know, right? And bring them to the masses or whichever crowd. Right. That's what Spotify does brilliantly. So if I had to add another app to Strava, that would be Spotify, which I can't live without.
Got it. The last one, that one movie that all marketers should watch.
Am I allowed to only give one?
You can give a couple of them.
Okay. If I had to only give one movie that marketers should watch, and any marketer at any age, at any point of their career, it's Inside Out. Pixar, right? Because it really helps you understand as a marketer or as a designer or as a storyteller how you take an abstract concept such as memories and you build them into an entire movie. And how do you take every idea in that, which when you look at it, you think of this is exactly how my brain works. And then put that on screen, right? And it resonates with so many people that we now know that Inside Out 2 is the largest grossing animation movie ever. So Inside Out is a must for marketers because it helps you understand how emotions work and how storytelling can be really done. So yeah, that will be the one movie that I would
Right. That was
suggest.
that one rapid fire round, and it wasn't short, but okay. I think we had some great answers, Ankit. Okay, so I think towards the last part of our podcast, I'm sure a lot of young marketeers would be watching this podcast, right? So, for a young marketing person early in their career or planning to get into marketing, right? What would be a few pieces of advice that you would have for them?
We'll start from the most generic. You have to be curious, not only about marketing, but
Can you build this skill? Like, can you get someone to be curious who is not?
it's a very interesting question, Neeraj. Um, I actually don't know the answer to that, but I do believe that if you again, it goes back to the question I asked in my interview, right? Are you passionate about something? If you're passionate about anything in your life, you can be curious because you were passionate enough to find
Your passion.
your passion or
Right.
your whatever really makes you go deeper into something, right? It could be dance, it could be music, it could be, I don't know, it could just be stitching things or drawing or whatever. Working out. When you are working out, then if you're enough into it, you'll go very deep into it.
Yeah.
You will find out the right proteins, you will find out the right footwear, you will find out the right time, diet. You're curious then. So if you're passionate about something, again, super generic advice, then you have the capability to be curious about something.
But if I'm passionate about A, does it make me, does it assure that I would be passionate or curious about other things?
No, it does not, but it tells us that you have the capability to care.
Care. If you're made excited enough about a problem statement.
Then you will have the capability to care. Um, and if you have that, then if something is interesting enough, then you will go deeper into it. But marketing is one function where people will not come naturally to you and tell you that you should care about this. You'll have to do that by yourself. The way marketing is moving now, where you are being involved in pretty much everything that's happening in a tech company, that, oh, okay, so how should our onboarding experience look like? What should our
I think that's how one can really exponentially grow in their career, right? It would be
I
safe
agree.
to say that, right?
I agree.
I mean, normal course, if you want to grow, then it's okay. But I think what you're saying, that's very important if someone wants to grow exponentially, that skill set.
Yeah.
What else?
Very high on my list now. I mean, it was fairly high, but it's going higher is uh, you have to invest in your health very early on.
Yeah.
Very, very early on. Because if you need a fruitful career where you can sustain the stress that startups or high growth environments give you, you have to invest in your health, you have to invest in your mental health, but physical health also, because your body needs to sustain that kind of stress.
Right. And not just about stress. I think in general, the world that we're living in, with, like, say in Delhi, so much of pollution and other things, people are falling sick much
Yeah, much more
fast-
frequently.
much more frequently, right?
Much more frequently.
And which shows up in your work, right? I mean, you can't control it, but it does impact your output, right? If you're working for some time, then you're sick, then you're again back to work, you'll not have the same
I agree.
momentum.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the generation that's coming up has that understanding.
Do you think we are not very far away from times when, as a part of your CV, you would also be attaching, I don't know, some data about your health?
So this
I don't.
happens.
Oh, is it?
It happens in the Gulf.
Okay.
When my dad worked in the Gulf, you would have to pass a medical test. It was
No,
a
medical test, but I'm saying, for example, your last, I don't know, 1 year data in terms of how much you've, like, what's your heart now with all these like uh, digital watch, digital ring, etc. I'm sure that wouldn't be too far.
If not part of the CV, there it has to become a part of a conversation with your teammates.
But that's also a great startup idea, Ankit.
It's a but it's a conversation you need to have with your teammates constantly. That guys, are you taking care of yourself or not?
Yeah.
I've seen that change in my own team as we have moved from being more revenue led, as our targets have increased.
People are more stressed.
Yes, but they're also more conscious of their health.
Hmm.
We have reduced, and I take no joy in saying this, so please don't take this out of context. We've reduced the amount of parties that we are doing, right? The amount of late night scenes that are getting made. There are scenes that are getting made, but it's a lot more about, hey, I went to the gym, I checked this out, or let's do this activity together. We're trying to take time out for that also because we are now a fairly large team, so it takes time to get things moving. But a lot of the conversations within this age group of 27 to 35 is a lot more of I'm taking care of my health. I'm trying to get work done. And it takes you 2 or 3 people to make that change in a large team. So I'm very happy to see that change happening. And I spoke to you about.
Do you reward people who?
So the whole fitness challenge that I was telling you about that's happening in RateGain initially actually started in my team.
Oh, nice.
But I couldn't follow it up because I didn't have someone to manage it for me. And then our HR team constituted a sports and fitness club, and our sports and fitness club president was, excited enough to take the idea, blow it up, and it's a carnival right now for this 1 month in RateGain. It's gonna be crazy. People will work, but there'll be like this nice whiff of a competition in the air. Everyone's trying to get their points in. So
I mean, first you said being curious. Second is taking care of your health. What would be the third one?
Third one is, as I said earlier, not be afraid of data and not be afraid of tech. Tech and marketing are getting more and more combined as we speak. Right? There was a perception about marketing that, they come from an arts background, a communications background, certain persona. I walked into so many rooms where they've said, what will marketing do in this conversation?
Yeah.
And I've changed those conversations, not me alone, but my team has changed those conversations where they're like, we need to create this architecture diagram
They'll be like, oh God,
for cloud.
Are you from marketing?
For cloud, right?
Yeah.
Who will do it? Marketing. And I'm now asking my own team, why will you do it? And everyone is convinced only marketing can do this. Only marketing can explain this concept in a simplistic manner. That can only happen when marketing puts that hat on that, we understand tech. And fortunately, the environment that we're getting in RateGain is also where marketing is being asked on a lot of Gen AI initiatives. That we understand that sales and marketing is ripe for disruption in Gen AI. Marketing, you tell us what should we do. And you start up. Now, if I had that mentality where I'll be like, no, tech is not my play.
Right. Again, if you're curious enough, then you would venture into that, right?
So I started venturing into it. My team started venturing into it. Now they're finding solutions.
So, picking on that, is an engineer better off as a marketeer? And you are an engineer.
I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. one of my best friends, who's also one of the most analytical brains that I've met, is a commerce graduate from Calcutta. Right?
No, but from marketing point of view.
Yeah, he's a marketer.
Oh, he's a marketer.
He ran an agency for 10 years, and he's supremely analytical. Uh, you need to be able to question things. You need to have critical thinking as a skill.
Right.
Engineers do it because they are into experimentation and mathematics, but I've seen enough commerce graduates also have that in their mind that they can go and challenge. But you need to have critical thinking. You need to be able to ask constantly why were we doing this, right? So, and that's an analytical capability. That is a skill you can build even early on in your career. That you will have to ask why. What will happen if I'll do this? What will happen if I'll do this? And then you can be a great marketer. But you look at TVF and you know that engineers are also great creators.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, but we can't say that that's the norm. Because in India, the proportion of engineers is so high. And so many of us are engineers against our own wishes. That any analysis to come to that conclusion will be flawed.
Flawed, right.
Because you didn't let us do what we wanted to.
Yeah. Got it. Great, Ankit. I think we had a wonderful chat.
Yes,
I wasn't
absolutely.
expecting we'll go so deep, but I'm glad we went so deep into so many things, which was not just marketing, but marketing with finance, marketing in regards to the culture, in regards to hiring. So really glad to have
Thank
you
you so
on
much.
the podcast. And
where's my gift hamper?
It's right there.
Awesome.
Right. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah.